Have you ever replayed a moment over and over in your head? An argument, a betrayal, a mistake, as if clinging to the pain somehow gave it meaning. We carry so much, grudges, regret, guilt, anger, and yet, when we finally put them down, we realize they were never protecting us, they were just weighing us down. Today isn't about forgetting the past, it's about freeing ourselves from it, not for their sake, but for ours. Let's talk about choosing peace over pain, and how sometimes the strongest thing we can do is let go. We've all done it. We replay the argument, we revisit the betrayal, we rehearse the words we should have said. There's a strange sense of comfort in it. Like if we hold on tightly enough, we can rewrite how it ended. Or maybe we think that by clinging to the pain, we're keeping justice alive. That letting go would mean it didn't matter, that they get away with it, that we lose. But what if that's a lie we tell ourselves to avoid the truth? Pain can feel like power. It gives us something to do. It keeps us focused. It keeps the memory alive. But more often than not, it also keeps us stuck. Because that control we think we have, it's not really control. It's a distraction, a way to avoid the vulnerability of healing, a way to stay angry instead of admitting we were hurt, a way to feel righteous instead of admitting we feel small. The brain is good at this. It convinces us that tension equals strength, that if we just stay angry enough, alert enough, resentful enough, somehow we're winning. But the irony is, while we're busy holding on, we're not living. We're reacting. We're protecting wounds that never got a chance to close. Think of someone clenching a burning coal in their fist. They grip it tighter because they're afraid to let it drop. But the burn doesn't lessen with time. It only deepens, and the hand that holds it, it never heals. We're conditioned to believe that letting go is a sign of weakness, that if we don't fight back, if we don't prove a point, if we don't get the last word, we've lost. That silence equals defeat, that walking away means giving up. But what if it's the opposite? Letting go isn't about bowing out. It's about choosing where your energy goes. It's the difference between reacting to every distraction and focusing on what actually matters. In life, as in war, not every battle is worth fighting. Sometimes strength isn't in how hard you hit back, but in knowing when not to swing at all. Think of someone on a long hike, carrying unnecessary weight. At first, they think they need everything, the backup supplies, the what-ifs, the just-in-case gear. But as the trail gets steeper, they realize the load is slowing them down, so they stop, reassess, and leave behind what no longer serves them. That isn't giving up, that's moving smarter. Letting go works the same way. It's about looking at what you'll carry, in anger, resentment, grudges, and asking, is this helping me, or is it just heavy? Is holding on to this really making me stronger, or is it just exhausting me? High performers, great leaders, deeply wise people, they all have one thing in common: they don't chase noise. They don't waste their attention on people or situations that drain them. They don't explain themselves to those who have already decided not to listen. They conserve their energy for things that bring value, and they understand that letting go isn't some passive surrender. It's an intentional act of clarity. It's knowing that peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the result of choosing which conflicts are worth your breath. It's realizing that not everything deserves a reaction, not everyone deserves a response, and not every wound needs to be reopened just to prove that it still hurts. Forgiveness is one of those words we hear so often that we forget how deeply misunderstood it really is. Most people treat forgiveness like a transaction. They hurt me, so they have to make it right. They have to apologize. They have to change. Only then, maybe, I'll consider forgiving them. It becomes a standoff, one person waiting for justice, the other too unaware or too proud to acknowledge the damage done. And in that in-between space, guess who suffers? Not them, you. Because the pain didn't stop with the moment it happened. It stayed. It sat in your chest, in your stomach, in the quiet hours of your night. It echoed in your relationships, your trust, your voice. It shaped the way you walk through the world, and holding onto it becomes its own form of punishment, a slow burn that you feel more than anyone else. We confuse forgiveness with condoning. We think that if we forgive someone, we're saying it was okay, that we're letting them off the hook. But forgiveness doesn't erase the wrong. It doesn't pretend the damage never happened. It simply says, I refuse to keep bleeding from this wound. There's power in that, quiet, unshakable power, because forgiveness isn't a favor for the one who hurt you. It's a form of freedom for you. It says, I'm done carrying the weight of something I didn't ask for. I'm done letting this moment, this person, this pain define my story. And in doing that, you take back control, not of the past, but of what comes next. Sometimes we wait for closure that never comes. We wait for apologies that may never be spoken, and we think without them we can't move on. But closure isn't something someone else gives you. It's something you give yourself. It's the quiet decision to stop letting pain write your narrative, to put down the anger not because it wasn't justified, but because it's become too expensive to keep. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't mean the relationship goes back to what it was. It doesn't mean you invite them back into your life. It simply means that you've decided your peace is more important than replaying the hurt again and again. The mind has a strange habit. It clings to pain like a favorite scene from a film. The betrayal, the humiliation, the heartbreak. We replay it again and again, almost as if there's something to be gained by watching it unfold one more time. We remember every word, every look, every silence that said more than words ever could, and each time we revisit it, the emotions resurface with the same sting, the same weight. But here's the thing, we don't just remember what happened. We relive it, and in doing so, we often trap ourselves in that version of the story, one where we are the victim, one where the pain defines the chapter, one where we stay stuck, rehearsing lines from a script that no longer serves who we're trying to become. Pain likes to be the narrator. It tells you, this is who you are now, the person who was abandoned, who failed, who wasn't enough. It locks you into the worst version of that memory and convinces you that's the truest version of yourself. But what if that's not the whole story? What if that moment, however awful, however unfair, isn't the end, but the middle of something deeper? What if instead of clinging to the scene, we learned to reframe the narrative? You don't get to change what happened, but you do get to decide what it means. You get to extract lessons instead of bitterness. You get to say, yes, that moment hurt, but it also taught me boundaries, resilience, clarity. You get to say, that loss taught me how to stand alone. That failure introduced me to a version of myself I hadn't met before. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending everything happens for a reason. It's about reclaiming authorship, about realizing you're not just a character in the story, you're also the storyteller. And if the same memory keeps haunting you, maybe it's because you haven't finished writing what it became. Because every scene, no matter how painful, is part of a larger arc. And how you tell it will shape how you live with it, whether it becomes your prison or your turning point. We often talk about peace as if it's a place you arrive at, a quiet mountaintop, a moment of clarity, a life stage where nothing bothers you anymore. We imagine that one day, after enough healing, enough journaling, enough therapy, enough time, we'll finally reach this elusive state where the noise goes quiet, the past stops knocking, and nothing gets under our skin. But that version of peace, the once and for all kind, is a myth. Peace isn't something you find and then keep forever. It's something you choose, sometimes over and over again in a single day. It's less like a destination and more like a practice, a discipline, a mindset that has to be tended to, like a garden, because if you don't take care of it, the weeds will grow back. You don't choose peace once and then never feel anger again. You don't forgive someone once and never feel the sting of what they did. You don't let go of something painful and never get triggered by a memory, a voice, a place. Healing doesn't erase what happened. It just changes your relationship to it, and peace is the decision to respond differently, even when the emotion tries to pull you back into the old script. It's waking up in the morning and deciding not to check the account that brings you down. It's hearing someone mention their name and choosing not to dive back into the spiral. It's being reminded of what hurt you and saying, I'm not going to carry that today. Not because you don't still feel something, but because you've learned it's no longer worth everything it costs. Peace is quiet, yes, but it isn't always easy. Sometimes it means walking away from a conversation that could have proved your point. Sometimes it means resisting the urge to retaliate. Sometimes it means holding back the text, the post, the response that would feel good in the moment but leave you feeling empty afterward. Peace isn't passive, it's active restraint. It's power under control. And the truth is, peace doesn't always feel like peace when you choose it. Sometimes it feels like discomfort, like vulnerability, like silence when you're used to noise, like loneliness when you're used to chaos. But each time you make that choice, something shifts, even if only slightly. Each time you return to stillness instead of rage, to grace instead of vengeance, to presence instead of replaying the past, you build something quiet and unshakable inside you. Something that doesn't demand to be seen, but deeply changes the way you move through the world. Letting go isn't an event. It's a journey, one we take not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Because the longer we hold on to the pain, the more we become strangers to the peace we claim to want. We grip old stories, old wounds, old identities, thinking they protect us. But really, they just keep us anchored to moments we were never meant to live in forever. Choosing peace doesn't mean you forget what happened. It doesn't mean you justify it. It means you've made the courageous decision to stop carrying what no longer helps you grow. It means rewriting the story in a way that gives you strength instead of shame. It means forgiving, not because they deserve it, but because you do. And most of all, it means showing up every single day, eyes open, heart steady, and saying, "Today, I choose peace again." Not for them, not for appearance, but for your own freedom, your own healing, your own life. Finally, fully lived.